So, welcome to again the Learn Through Loving podcast. I'm LT. I'm sitting here with a very special man, someone that I've known literally since I was born.
Yeah,
And
literally, I've known you since you were born.
yeah, you've known me since and I've known you since you were 11 months old.
That's true.
Uh, this is Chris Del Favro, or
I,
however you want to identify as.
that is my name. Yeah,
Hey, nice. And I've known him forever. We'll talk a little bit more about this just as kind of summary. We played music together, we went to school together, we
lived together.
we lived together at Fort Dude,
Mm-hmm.
and we played ping pong, and we wrote music. We came up with multiple genres that people have never even heard of before,
Still
and
haven't.
had a lot of experiences. And we have reconnected again. We've kind of been doing a lot more again, and I thought, what a better way to kind of send off, since I'm going to be traveling and stuff, to have a cool conversation. And I think that you've got a lot of wisdom to share with a lot of people, and I think that I love our conversations while we're just bullshitting on your couch. So it's like, why not just go ahead and do it in this?
Yeah,
So
perfect.
I appreciate you joining me, man.
Yeah, of course.
Totally.
Yeah, I can't believe you're going
Yeah.
in only a couple days. Well, I mean, you're going to be going around the country,
But I'm leaving Arizona. I'm leaving home. Yeah, in a couple days.
It's so exciting. Gives me such a good excuse to get up to Europe one day.
Yeah. Well, and so we can go a little bit your history. You've traveled a bit in your life.
That's true. With my partner, Jesse, we've been together for 11 years. That was
Has it been
shortly.
11 fucking years, dude?
Yeah.
I like literally
11
can't believe
years
it.
ago is when I left the
For
house. I
South
left
America.
Tempe.
Oh, for Flagstaff.
Yeah, because that was right around the time I think you moved out to
Yeah.
move in with
Lita.
Lita.
I shouldn't use names, but whatever.
I almost, yeah, I almost died.
Yeah.
Because that was right when I got that blood infection. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, from guitar, right?
Yeah, I got a staph infection from playing guitar. And then I moved to Flagstaff, met Jesse, and pretty much my whole relationship with Jesse kind of kicked off a lot of my traveling. Because we used to, at least a couple times a year, we would go on long trips.
Yeah.
She was going to NAU, and I just had a lot of free time, but,
We were kind of the Creek place.
Oh my God. That was terrible. I worked there for a month, and they hated me.
It was the month I came to visit.
Yeah. And TJ was supposed to get that job, or she was like, which one do you want to work here? And I always said, I'll work. And TJ was always a little bitter about it. And then I was the one ended up losing the job because I sucked at it. Or they just, who knows? I'll blame myself. I won't blame them. But yeah, traveled pretty much our whole relationship together until about 2012 is when we went on the 2-year journey.
Yeah. It's again crazy to think that it was that long ago. You went down to South America. Where all did you visit?
Well, first when we set off, it was a February. We spent a month driving to Florida.
Okay.
So we would spend
time.
Yeah, we took our time. We went and visited some relatives. We went and stayed with my Uncle John, stayed with my grandma, hung out with TJ in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Did a lot of sightseeing, and then we paid for a flight to Guatemala. Mm-hmm. And that was when we were in Florida. We sold everything that we had on us except for the stuff we planned taking with us. And then we traveled to...
I can finally relate to that.
Yeah. It's an incredible feeling.
Yeah, it is.
Especially being in, like, fucking Miami, just trying to sell her truck on Craigslist. And we sold it in, like, 30 minutes when we posted it. And the guy who bought it drove us to the airport.
Oh, no shit.
Which was really
awesome.
Cool. But let's see. We went to Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. And that was itself about a year in only those 3 countries.
Yeah.
And then, because we spent about 8 months in total in Honduras. Mm-hmm. And then after that, we came back to the States, and we were only here for like a week or 2.
I remember hearing about that.
To go see her family, see my family. And then and then we went down to Panama, and then we were out. Yeah, it's exactly like the song, you know. Hot shoe boining down the avenue. You know, a lot of that.
Does everybody have
Everybody's
that reaction
doing that.
whenever you say Pan?
Oh yeah,
that's just what comes to my head.
yeah. Rest in peace,
In the Panama Canal.
Eddie Van Halen, by
yeah,
the way.
Yep.
Let's see, and then we spent about 4 months in Panama. Took a boat to Colombia. And then we were in Colombia and Ecuador and Peru.
Jesus, I didn't know you went to all those places, dude.
Yeah, it was crazy. We spent like 3 months in Peru with TJ.
Oh, yeah.
We lived with him for.
TJ's an old friend of ours.
Well, yeah, almost not as old, but very, very, very
Since
old.
Junior high.
Yeah, one of my best friends. And yeah, and there's millions of crazy stories.
I know, and we can get into some of those or whatever, you know. I want to start you off with a question.
Yeah.
I guess that is I'm still trying this out, but I'm going to give you a few. So, being as we're here right now in your beautiful room, you obviously have possessions again. We're in 2020, in the middle of COVID, all this other shit. What do you feel like? What's brought you to this moment?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, I told you I was going to put you on the spot for it.
Kind of unironically, I would say our relationship helped propel me to, I think, this moment in my life.
Yeah.
Not to be overly romantic
no, dude.
Sappy, but, you know, all those things that we endured in our childhood.
Yeah.
All of which led to all the weird choices we were making in our adolescence, and just our deep bond.
Yeah.
Really, I think established, or at least helped solidify the belief in myself, like who I was.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, in those younger years, like back at Sousa Elementary, like I always felt I was extremely confused.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know about you, but I was picked on a little bit by some friends or the people that were there, and it affected me a lot, you know, back then, even going into junior high.
Yeah.
Even when you were still in 6th grade and before they built Smith,
you went to Fremont
for 1 year.
Yeah.
And that was really confusing because I was already introverted. I was really, really sensitive. And it was very intimidating. And I only really relied on the friendships that I built back at Sousa, you know.
Yeah.
But I made, you know, like Ari was a really important friend that I made at that time too.
Yeah.
So some of those relationships really propelled me to see how I don't know, what's the word, like the things that we or myself had endured growing up emotionally, intellectually, artistically, physically, how it really helped me navigate a lot of these challenges that I confronted a lot, or even forced myself to confront, voluntarily, involuntarily. But ultimately, where was I going with all this? About COVID, right?
I'll echo.
I think all of that really influenced in the way that I think about how I think of myself financially in my life, how I want to live my life financially, how I want to live my life artistically, possessively, materialistically, emotionally. A lot of you affected a lot of that. Obviously, my relationship with Jessie as well.
Yeah.
And even before her, Megan, you know.
Yeah. That was a few years too.
Because those are some of the biggest relationships in my life. Ultimately, it was people, you know.
Yeah.
And that sounds maybe a little cliche, but it's when you get older and older, now that I'm 32, I know, which is crazy.
31, dude. I hear you.
Yeah, and I have roommates, I have band members who are 10 years younger than me, you know, still developing these relationships.
Yeah.
But all of that kind of helps not necessarily validate, but creates an important reflection on your actions, on the things you think about, all of your perspectives,
Yeah.
and empathy. I think ultimately, it's all the larger picture. The macrocosm is the development of empathy.
Yeah.
For me.
Well, and you touched on, it's our relationships.
Mm-hmm.
There's people. You were my brother, dude. I didn't have a
Mm-hmm.
brother. I mean, you had an actual brother,
Yeah.
and we were all really close when we were younger. But then
Mm-hmm.
that, as we start developing personalities and stuff, I think we both kind of. I don't ever want to say I spent a lot of time to myself, right? Being an only child, there was a lot of isolation. I think we both had common bonds in that.
Mm-hmm.
In you with the introvertedness, and me, like, when I'm around people, I'm all about it. And I know you have that too. You're a
Mm-hmm.
little performer sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt isolated and I felt alone, and I didn't have anybody to share any of this stuff with. And it wasn't. I mean, I could. You're like one of the first people that I felt secure sharing with. I still didn't know how to fucking do it though,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I remember not even just drunk nights, like other nights we would talk philosophical
Mm-hmm.
conversations and stuff, but especially that where I felt like I could say whatever. I could say,
Mm-hmm.
dude, like I'm not good with this,
Mm-hmm.
right? And not feel like I was going to be attacked. I never felt like you were going to use anything against me,
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to say we didn't have our own little tiffs and shit, but it was all
Yeah.
so minor, right? Like,
Yeah, more it's like those emotional explosions that aren't personal,
yeah, and I never took anything personal that you
Mm-hmm.
did, whether it was you were dealing with shit with Megan or whether I on your birthday got in a fight with you at the water park or whatever, just because I was acting like a little shit. I we learned, right?
Yeah.
And that was during. Yeah, no, you're good. Uh, you can walk. It's all good, dude.
It's
It's
all
all a
gonna be
part of it.
edited, yeah.
It's all well, since we were so gravely interrupted. No,
I'm just kidding.
that was actually your partner Jesse.
Yeah.
Um, I don't remember exactly what I was saying. I think I was talking about connection. I felt connected with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was during like really the formative years of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, teenage years is when you start to figure out kind of who you are, and I still had no fucking idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that I liked playing music with you.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I liked our little group of friends, and I was feeling good about that. Like I didn't, we all deal with things differently. I didn't have like I was checked out unless I was hanging out with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I went home, it was practice music because I had to and because that was kind of good. It was porn, it was video games,
Mm-hmm.
and it was checked out for everything else because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel good at home. I know a lot of people have like kind of the opposite where they're like, oh, I hated going to school. Like that was the only place where I felt like, I mean, I could put on a mask every single period and be
Mm-hmm.
who the fuck I needed to be. And then I could look forward to like lunch with you and seats and like, all these good
Mm-hmm.
people. And then as soon as that would end, like I remember feeling dread on going home where I was like, dude, I want to go anywhere but there.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that I was like fearful for my life. I couldn't be me,
Yeah.
and I had to shut. And the only way I could cope with that was to shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, how else could you, unless being
but
explosively violent,
yeah,
mentally or like physically or emotionally,
yeah,
I mean, like it's a terrible tactic to shut down, but ultimately that's like it probably was the better choice,
yeah,
sadly,
yeah.
because
Well,
it's unfortunately
we
that
only we
environment.
if we knew better, we'd do better, right? I didn't have any coping skills or anything like that, so I lost
Hmm.
myself in fantasy, whether it was video games or pornography or like just being checked. I had to be somewhere else, and through reading, things
Hmm.
like that. That's where I I felt better about my life, right? And
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's hard too, because like even as children, like obviously since we had known each other for so long, it would be wrong if I said I never noticed it. It was so apparent, But what do you do when you're like when you're young and you're
your own
lacking so
problems.
much emotional stability as well, you're
Yeah,
or even just coping mechanisms for other people or like being that sort of like foundational strength that can help bring any friend out of things. But like when you're fucking 10, 14, or even 16, 18. Like you have
No,
rarely have those skills.
I still, dude, we were kind of talking out there when we were on the couch. Like, I was still so confused when I was 20. I hated things.
Mm-hmm.
Because it started expressing myself finally instead of
Mm-hmm.
letting it up. And it came out in the form of rejection and fear and hatred, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because those are the first things that came up, and not even knowing what I really didn't like, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
It's interesting too, because like I think in this particular time period, the generation after us that's 10 years younger, maybe even a little bit more,
Yeah,
they have a lot weirder world that they're growing up in, where I feel like they're actually that's sort of information, that sort of discussion is more available to them. Where for us it
mental
was,
health and stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's like a generation absolutely focused on mental health as much as we are here too in our age, but it's like we had to learn that later,
yeah,
you know. But
yeah,
then there's positives and negatives in that,
yeah.
where there's so much stress on mental health for the kids younger than us, but then they lack a lot of ability of fortification, in many ways.
Yeah.
And not to say that they can't, but it's just from observation. You just see so many of them. It's like they rely so much on emotional expression that they don't have the ability to not be so self-centered,
Yep.
so narcissistic because of that. It's
Yep.
like ironically healthy, but extremely narcissistic in a way. That might not be super accurate, but just from observation, it's like more maybe just like that aged wisdom. You're just like, I don't know. It's like you all gotta,
Well, we can.
build up some foundations here. You're gonna get fucking crushed later on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's, we're not. I know you're not pigeonholing it. There's obviously
Hmm.
like multiple things, but that is something that's apparent, right? Just
Hmm.
like, just like wonder what the next other 10 years are going to be. The kids that are 11 right now going through
Hmm.
all this shit, right? Like, how is this
Yeah.
going to affect them? I know. I'll share a brief thing to kind of go on the point that you're saying. Like, the people that are younger than us, like when we were young, do you remember being like, I don't know, 11, 12 years old, getting dropped off at the mall by your mom,
Yeah.
and then they're like, we'll be back in 5 hours,
Yeah.
do whatever the fuck you want, right?
Hmm.
And there was girls and guys all
Hmm.
together. We all hung out together. I was talking with some people um, when I was traveling before, and I was talking to these kids that were like 19, and they're asking me, I'm the old man now, right? Like,
Hmm.
how do I talk to women, right? And I'm not a fucking red pill guy. I'm not one that just like they saw me talking to everybody. And they're like, how do you talk to women though? And then I was asking them like, okay, so like, how are we getting to that? They're like, I'm like, how do you do it right now? And they said like, well, I go on Tinder and I meet this girl and it's the most awkward meal ever. And then I say, do you want to go to the club? We go to the club and we get drinks and stuff. This is in another country, so they could
Hmm.
drink at 18. And then they're at the club and it's loud and all they have to do is dance and stuff. And then one of them's like, yo, do you want to fuck? And it's like, yeah. And they know how to do that. So they do that. And then afterwards, it's back to, I have no fucking idea what to say to you. I don't know how to treat you as a person. I was like blown away. They're like,
Hmm.
so I was asking them when they were growing up, like, we kind of came to this of like hanging out. They're like, no, when I was 11 years old, I was playing Call of Duty and I only talked to my guy friends. And they've never had a friend that was a girl in their entire life.
Hmm.
So, of course, they have no idea how to actually have a conversation with somebody of the other gender, right?
Yeah, or it's like just being able to understand body language and
Yeah,
gestures.
basics.
Yeah, because it's like you learn how to adapt to somebody's emotions, not just by their words, but their aura,
Yeah,
their gestures,
like
their
I can feel a
expressions.
very strong sexual urge coming from you right now.
Yeah, I'm glowing. I'm emanating right now.
Yeah. No, but
Barely
just
keep my pants on
it's it's interesting though. Like these are things that we as people always assume that everybody knows our perspective,
them.
right?
Hmm.
Like we always approach the situation as you've lived the same life I have, so of course you're going to think the same way about things.
Yeah.
And that's not the truth for 7 billion of us.
Hmm.
Like there's certain things, like we both played music,
Hmm.
so we have that, and we both found jazz around the same time, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But like I don't know. I mean, I went over to your house a lot, but I don't know what it was like to be a Del Fabro growing up,
Yeah.
right? Like all the other hours of the day, all the other years that you spent, you
Yeah.
know?
Or even, and ironically too, having a brother, like I didn't know what it was like to be my brother.
No,
You know,
no. I actually saw your brother the other night.
yeah, he's doing all right. He's finally mailing out his save the dates,
Yeah, he's getting
which is
married. He's getting
crazy.
married. Little baby
Honestly,
boy.
I would be so stoked if my brother had a kid. That'd be fucking really cool.
That's gonna be a spiritual experience for all of us
I know, right? Because who else
because
had like who? How many of our friends, particularly from where we grew up, and everybody we loved growing up, like nobody is married or has a kid. Everybody else that I know who is married as a kid, they're all of my new friends.
yeah, yeah, no, dude. I think there's a lot, especially with when we grew up. I talked with Maria a lot about this
uh,
of not wanting to. I mean, every generation doesn't want to do the same thing their parents did,
hmm
but we specifically like how many kids growing up all had divorced parents. Like pretty much everybody. I felt
Yeah,
like very much the minority. The fact that my parents weren't divorced.
I
That
did
does,
too. Yeah.
and that doesn't make me. That's not a better or worse thing. It's just there's certain ways I couldn't relate to what these other people were going
Yeah.
through.
hmm
And even now, our parents are both still married, for better or worse, right?
hmm
That's the vows. But it changed, I think, the way that we all like. We just. I remember seeing that. I was like, well, so that's not really a thing for me. It seems like because
Or I'm not gonna ever rush into that.
or yeah, or rush into it, like
You know.
right. But it's definitely shaped it. And I feel like probably if we're having that, there's probably a lot of people that felt that way of like, you know what, I don't have to just do this thing because that's what everyone else did, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of other subtle things to that too, of the economic circumstances that
That's
that
a
our
huge one
generation
too.
inherited. Well, everybody our generation on it inherited, and you know what I mean.
Yeah,
And
no,
it's great. I feel like that's such a big factor too, because
and I didn't even think about that.
yeah, it's subtle. It's like how come we've only most of the time we only get minimum wage jobs still, and we still can't fucking get stuff. It's like how could I ever even imagine having a child? Even if I like, sometimes I do want one. Then I'm like, oh my god, but I'm on unemployment right now.
Yeah,
On the one of the second worst unemployment in the fucking country.
tied with Mississippi, right?
Yeah, no, is it tied now?
I thought we were tied with
I
them.
think it's Alabama.
Oh,
It's
okay.
Alabama's the worst, and then Arizona.
Yeah, I thought I remember reading. It doesn't really matter because it's so
Right.
low. Our standard of living here in Arizona is definitely higher than any of those states.
Yeah, and also from especially in the past 10 years, it has
Has it changed?
absolutely changed.
Yeah, but it
I could
hasn't
have
changed.
like I can't imagine like when I first started working. When I first started working at Fuddruckers,
Yep.
minimum wage was 550,
Yep.
575.
Yeah, I was at 515 when I worked at Fry's.
That was at 515,
515.
and I worked, did it, and it was awesome. It's like I have money
Yeah.
like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I have it, and then I never even imagined my whole like back then. Like goddamn, that's what is that? 15 years now. 15 years ago, if I would have thought I would have been making $15 an hour, it would have been like, or even $12 because that's the minimum wage now. $12, it would have been like, I'm rich. I'm gonna buy a
Yeah.
car.
That's like what my
I'm gonna
parents.
buy a house.
That's like what my parents are making.
Yeah.
Or like
My
I remember,
mom's making $12.
remember that my dad was making 15, right? If you're going back like that long ago,
Mm-hmm.
because I started at 515. I'm like, oh, my dad makes 3 times as much as I do, and that's not even that much. I
Mm-mm.
mean, now, especially not nowadays, but back then, it bought a lot fucking more.
Yeah, they could.
And we're the old fucking 30-year-old dudes that are like back in 15 years ago.
Yeah, I'm at the age where I'm almost at that age of when my parents. When did my parents have me? They had me, I think, in their late 20s.
Yep.
Oh my, it's just crazy to think
My
about.
mom was 20, I think. It was around. My mom was like 20, and my dad was 28.
Yeah, so it's like at
Remember
some
when I was
point
28, I was like, "What? They
we're
had a kid?"
we're approaching the age of when our parents started to see us start getting jobs. you know,
Yeah.
and we're gonna be making so much less money than them, no
Yeah.
matter what job we get.
Yeah.
And like, there's so so many
At
things
least
are
as
a lot
far,
less
yeah, as far as basic, like,
yeah,
yeah,
basic income. But it's crazy to
like the
think.
majority of jobs that are available.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy to think that even like the amount that I was making back then would still have been good enough to afford things at $5.15 an hour.
Dude, yeah. I remember, so you remember when I moved out with a first girlfriend? I'm
Yeah,
just going to try to refer to it as
first
that.
girlfriend.
There you go. Or whatever. Back whenever I left Fort Dude,
Yeah.
right? I was still working at Fry's. That was the first job I
Uh-huh.
had. And I think I was up to minimum wage had gone up a little bit. I think I was up to maybe, I don't know, nine or $10 an hour, around
Mhm.
there, right? I had worked there for a few years, and I went and got my own 1-bedroom apartment and paid for everything for me and this other person to live there. I paid for like literally everything, all my car payments, insurance, utilities, everything. Now, if I had minimum wage here and I tried to get an apartment, that's the only thing I could pay for. I couldn't eat. I could like I was like it's insanity, dude. That
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Before I quit my last job, that was the first time I started making $50 an hour.
Yep.
But even at that amount, if I was living alone, that still wouldn't have been enough.
No.
Even in Arizona at this point. It's crazy.
No, and then you slowly fall behind and you try to do things, you pick up overtime, you pick up a second job, and then you still stay behind, and then suddenly all you're doing is working to live, right? And I think that that's going on a bigger thing. That's where I feel like most of our society
Mhm.
is this work for the weekend, right? And this keep working, keep working, keep working, just enough to get by, right? Just and then if you do save up any money, I think we might have talked about this before. If you do save up any money, you spend it on a week-long trip to go up north, right? And to go camping or to go stay somewhere, to go do something because you're so burnt out, you want to do something for yourself.
Mhm.
You're not taking any time to further your education, to pursue any interests or hobbies because you come
Mhm.
home and you're tired, right?
Mhm.
And so you want to watch Netflix or you want to watch YouTube or insert thing here or lose yourself on social media or you want to it's so funny because I saw your eyes first and then this thing you want to lose yourself because you're not okay with the way things are at the moment, right?
Yeah. Yeah, then you spend all of your spending money in 1 week.
Yep.
And which is so, what is that? 7 days out of 365 days.
Yeah.
It's like spend
Or
all of your money.
or your fucking car breaks down and then that money you were saving up for your trip you have to pay for that because you have to keep working, and that's the thing that's continuous, right? And then
Mhm.
something like this happens with our fucking world where COVID-19, like I was lucky enough to not have to be living paycheck to paycheck. I made changes in my life with the job that I had where I had a couple thousand saved up, which isn't that much,
Mm-mm.
but it paid for my rent.
Yeah.
And then it took me 3 months to get unemployment money. If I was still living paycheck to paycheck, dude, I'd be back panhandling, or I don't know what the fuck I would be doing. I really don't, and I don't know what people are doing. Like I don't know where people are at, dude. I'd probably be actually down at DES, like telling them, "Look, I don't have anything. I'm gonna be a homeless person unless you guys give me like."
I know, isn't it crazy how even like in such a, I don't want to say a terrible situation that we are financially, which I'll concede, like I'm fine, even
Yeah,
though it's like I couldn't, if it got worse, I would be a lot worse, you know?
yeah,
But goddamn, like this country has absolutely abandoned all poor people at this
yeah,
point.
yeah.
But
And we grew up. I mean, we didn't grow up dirt poor, right?
mhm.
But
We were never middle class though.
no, that's that. Yeah, that was the goal. That was like the dream.
Hmm.
That's what credit cards helped us pretend to be.
Yeah, right. Pretend, yeah.
Like, but it's a lie, and that's what the whole credit system. I mean, that's a whole other thing. We're not going to fix everything, right? But
Mhm.
we can see that that's a problem. Is I mean, I've lived without beyond my means. Like when I got that apartment, they gave me a credit card that was $6,000 limit, dude.
Good lord.
I was what, 19?
Dude, they were hoping that you'd fuck it up.
Yeah, and I did. I did. Little did they know addiction would come into my life shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
But
God damn.
but I didn't. I remember getting that because they were like, "Oh, you're doing great with your credit." I had that one credit card for $500 they give you first, and I was using it just for
Mhm.
gas, like everyone tells you to do. They're like, "Here, how about 6,000?" And I was like, "Nice, like
Perfect.
this is great.
Can I
Thanks."
put all that in my arm?
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Exactly. exactly.
Like right now.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. I didn't do it right then, but it came
I know.
it came about not that long after in the grand scheme of life,
Right. Yeah.
and then yeah, but I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, we live on credit. That's where I was going with that, right? And I saw my parents like struggle to. They slowly kept dipping into it, and then my dad would get a bonus at his job for not calling in sick because he never called in sick, right? That's the thing I definitely know our parents taught us is like work hard and always show up, right?
Yeah, but goddamn, like in the grand scheme of things too, it's like, hey, we're gonna reward you for, we're gonna give you
For
small.
even for coming in even when you were sick.
It's like giving a little dog a bone for
Yeah.
like not chewing up your
Yeah,
garbage.
and then my dad would pay off his credit card with that, and then for the next year slowly dip into the credit card,
It's
right?
crazy, man.
Or
They
little
gotta,
things like that. I don't know their exact finances, but that's what it would
yeah.
seem like.
But goddamn, they got us on a leash, dude. Like,
Dude, yeah.
it's crazy. Like,
Good luck achieving really anything.
yeah, it's just that grand classist delusion,
Yeah.
Every American thinks one day they're gonna be a millionaire, but like, every American has the opportunity to be one. It's like, no, it's a lie. It's an absolute lie. Because
We could all do porn.
it's an effective lie
Yeah.
that we can all believe into, because it's like it's a vague concept. It's the illusion of the free market makes that
When you
seem achievable.
yeah, when you see it happen for some people,
Exactly.
like
then you
people
think-
that are dumber than you, less privileged than you, like all these different things, they somehow make it, right?
Mhm.
Like what just happened recently, like if you look at LeBron James' story, right? He single mom, all this other like shit, and now he's the biggest, sports like basketball player in the world, making a ridiculous amount of money, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, dude, if I could do that too, right? It can happen to me. It's like, for one thing, I don't have the same mentality he has of being, so disciplined. And I mean,
Mhm.
I get told by people that I'm a pretty disciplined person, at least when it comes to my things, but like super athletes and stuff are on another level of having that dog that's chasing them, that they're constantly going.
Yeah, but even at that level too, there's still just like when the door is only open for a small amount of people. It's not
Yes,
truly
yes.
available for everybody.
Yeah.
Not like absolutely LeBron James is one of the best athletes in the world. But what about the rest of the best athletes in the world? Do they actually get that much money too?
Like the
Were they
Olympics?
ever allowed that opportunity?
Yeah, yeah.
Or like even in music, like
Oh, especially there.
just from my own personal experience of it, because I've had at least almost 10 years straight, like working hard on it, trying to find some success.
Yeah.
In any form, not financial, whether it be financial, whether it be fame, whether it just be productivity, relationships. It's crazy. And it's like, I try not to be bitter about it. The bitterness is such a crazy mirror, such a crazy reflection. But it's remarkable how people with so little talent, people with so little sense of morals or ethics, just get to be the most successful.
What do you think that is?
I think a lot of it's opportunity, a lot of it's privilege. Because I think if you ignore those things, the hard work seems like it's the largest factor, but it's not. There's millions of things that can create people's success, and all of them are an important part. And if privilege is part of it, that means they're like the Venn diagram of it all. There's not a healthier chunk coming from just hard work, because otherwise that's just not real. I work my ass off, practiced every day. I learned 15, 20 instruments. I try to write challenging music that's also accessible. That's not meant to be pretentious.
Mm-hmm.
It's intentionally not pretentious, even though that sounds pretentious. But
I get what you're saying, because I know we've listened to stuff that's very pretentious.
I try to treat my band members with a lot of equity.
Yep.
If we got a good paying gig, I would either forfeit my share or give band members larger shares, everything was about equity. And when you ride the train of equity, it doesn't go far.
Yep.
And that's ultimately, I think, in the macrocosm of human history, equity doesn't work. People don't benefit as much through equity as long as there are people that rather not be a part of that, who'd rather claim more for themselves, because it's an imbalance. It's like a virus. It's like an infection. Where, of course, it's like that's a big part of human progress, right? In any form, whether it's business, in art, in communal living, sustainability. It's like there's like this subconscious desire for equitability for everybody, because it's like, is it really an achievement if only one person gains the most from it and nobody else gains from the success? It's like, that's not really an achievement. That's just, that itself is exploitation. And then when you're participating in a system like, say, music, and you see those people that gain the most success, and this isn't everybody, but a majority of the time, I would even say 80% of the people that gain success have definitely gotten it through some level of exploitation along the way. And
Well, it depends on what you call success too, I guess. Depending on what level we're doing for that. Because
I think so too. Because even in like those things that I was mentioning that aren't necessarily financial success, fame, productivity,
yeah.
People who somehow pump out the most probably rode the back off of somebody else's financial success, or usually capitalized on some weird emotional problems or toxic relationships that they've built with people. In the fame, obviously, it's like how many people did that they had to use in order to push their own image. Like, whose image did they exploit? What part of the culture was appropriated? How many family members had to be sacrificed? How many friendships had to be sacrificed? It's not really equitable.
Yeah, it's interesting. My brain always goes to, because I'm a big metalhead,
Mm-hmm.
so there's hardly any metal bands that are successful. I mean, at least not with the stuff that I'm listening to, right? But their version of success is if they can go on tour and come back and still have their house,
Right.
and it funds their ability to go out and party while they're on tour, eat places,
Mm-hmm.
meet fans, and be able to come back home to their wife and kids and say like, hey, I earned a little bit of money. Like, that's one form of success. Not like, but then you can go even more with the people that make multi-million-dollar,
Mm-hmm.
deals with, Spotify or whoever their production is, and they're getting 100 million views, on YouTube and all this stuff. Like, there's a lot of people that I think are that they're never obviously never going to get to something like that.
Yeah, that is such an ideal situation that you can take your music on the road.
Yep.
Get more people to enjoy it and share that sort of artistic relationship with people. But you shouldn't be losing, Ideally, it's like, I think if you go on tour and you don't lose anything from it, I think is a good form of success. That's what I
agree
would
too.
purpose.
Everyone has different ideas of what that means, though.
Yeah, and that's fine, dude. If somebody wants, because I have friends like that.
Yep.
People want to be famous because they're sick of being poor, know?
Oh, yeah.
And I totally get that. And like, I have no,
that's why
I have no qualm with that,
That's why we always want something, right? Because we feel like we're lacking somewhere, or
yeah,
whatever.
Which is part of like that social inequity. But I just still like, I don't know. It's still important, I think, in order for there to be the progress in society, is that we shouldn't also be afraid to call people out on those certain things. Even if they're your really good friends, be like, yeah, man, you don't want to be poor and you're sick of it. You're sick of the struggle. You want to be famous so that you don't have to feel that way anymore. But fuck you if people actually got poorer because of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like if you got to have the biggest form of success, but then everybody else actually lost and they continue to lose because of your gain, like,
Yeah.
fuck you, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what you have to go through. It's like we're all on one planet, you know. Nobody's better than each other. We're all mortals.
Yeah.
There's no God.
This is
we only can
we
take
talked-
care of each other.
we talked about that last
Yeah.
week. We had a whole 10-minute nihilism.
Yeah.
Because my old sponsor was
So anything COVID's teaching us is there's no fucking God.
I would say I totally agree with you with the we have this tribalism, this
Mhm.
separation that is preached in everything, in politics, in
Mhm.
religion, and even like
Even on the arts, yeah.
well, I was gonna say, yeah, in the art scene. Like I remember growing up thinking, and I think you were in a similar spot because we were musicians. We were trying to get to that next level all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and so we listened to the most like creatively stimulating music
Mhm.
that was complicated, and the musicianship was on another level, right? And it might not even been easy listening, but I was like, I wanted to keep pushing it, and I remember thinking, this is my own personal story. So like,
Mm-hmm.
remember when Panic at the Disco came out?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, dude, fuck that band. Like everyone at school likes that band. I hate them.
Mhm.
All this stuff. And I was like, I write sins not for fuck you, like fuck all that shit. And because I didn't want to let myself do that. I for some reason had to hold myself up to this thing, and I disliked all those kids. And I was on a road trip with first girlfriend, and she played the album. She was the one DJing, and
Uh-huh.
and I'd never listened to the whole album, right? I just heard the hits. So we go through and we're listening to the first song, and I'm asking her who it is, and she's like, no, just listen. And we get through like 3 or 4 songs, and then we get to dun 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 dun, and I'm like, no. And she's looking at me just with this biggest shit-eating grin on her face, and I was like, literally, that moment changed my entire life, the way I looked at music,
Yeah.
because I was like, holy shit, I like this song. Like, I
Yeah.
love this band.
Yeah.
I like them, because she was asking me my opinion after every song. I'm like, I like this, dude. This is like catchy, and it's good, and like I loved everything about it. And then I suddenly realized, like, I don't have to just listen to King Crimson or Mars Volta or insert
Mhm.
bebop jazz musicians and Ornette Coleman and everybody. I can also like this, right? And then it clicked for me at the same time. I was shattered on that trip though. I just didn't talk. She was just laughing, and I was just like, what? Like, what is going on? And I remember the Louis Armstrong quote where, especially when Bop came about, right? They asked Louis what he thought of all this stuff, and he's like, he starts just tapping his foot. He's like, if you can tap your foot to it, it's good music. That's it. Like that was, and he's like, the godfather of all that stuff.
Mhm.
And he was like, it doesn't matter what I think. Like if you
Yeah.
like it, then you like it.
Mhm.
And then then that opened up. Then I started liking Fall Out Boy and Taking Back Sunday, and I started exploring all these bands that I had just shut off because they weren't prog rock, experimental.
Right.
And then so looking at the isolating and the differentiation, right? Even then, like when I first did that, I was like, yeah, I like all this stuff, but not Insane Clown Posse. Like,
Mhm.
and I still had these things where I was like, I can't like that. But
Mhm.
then I continued to break down these walls because I realized, like, dude, just because I started saying that instead of saying I don't like something, I just said like it doesn't really do it for me,
Mhm.
right? Or like I don't really vibe with it.
Yeah.
And so I'm not putting it down. So I'm not telling you like, Chris, I don't like X band here,
Mhm.
and then you get defensive because I saw that all the time. I witnessed
Mhm.
it in front of people where they're like, yeah, I couldn't stand their first CD. And then the person's like, but I
Mhm.
really like the first CD. Like now we're at war. Now
Yeah.
suddenly you're Republican and I'm a Democrat. Suddenly
Mhm.
you're black. Suddenly it's this fucking division put between us on something so arbitrary as
Yeah.
music that we like.
And yeah, I think there's a lot to be. That is, I think, absolutely right in that, because nobody should condemn anybody for trying to create art.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I felt the same way for a long time. I wanted to be that.
Yeah.
I wanted to be
Same.
open to everything. But then as I started getting older, it was just like, at some point, I was like, who am I? I'm like, if I'm open to everything, who am I anymore?
Mm.
And that's kind of like a weird thing that I started to like maybe challenge myself with. I'm like, it feels wrong to say I don't like that, but then again, it's like, but it's also important to hold on to that sense of your individuality. It's like, it's okay to be like, there is something I don't like about that,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because that actually starts establishing who you are as a person. And it doesn't have to be on like grandiose scale. It doesn't have to be like the thing that is defining about you,
Yeah.
but it gives you like those different perspectives of your life. It gives you like a place to stand when you want to understand something.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we all like different foods and stuff, right? And
exactly,
nobody gets
exactly.
offended over that, or they shouldn't. I think people.
Ultimately, it's like people shouldn't be offended.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or take things personally.
I mean, they
But
can, but they don't need to.
yeah, because I started to find myself when I was going down these paths of like, how can I accept everything?
Mm.
You know, like then it just starts getting muddled. I stop like understanding what it is I actually like. You know?
Yeah.
How can I like everything, but then like where's the passion start to really come out for me? What things actually make me feel like myself?
Yeah.
And it's like I don't particularly like a lot of metal, and I don't ever want to talk shit on it ever.
You better
And
not.
like you're saying, like it doesn't do it for me, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But it was like it felt so not necessarily important, but interesting to like to say like to listen to it and be like, why don't I like this? What is making me not like this?
Yeah.
You know, and will this make me like it by the end of it, or will I still not like it less? It's like I think it's also really cool to have those conversations where a lot of people would just refuse to even get deep about what each other's opinions are on things.
Yeah.
Because it's like a really challenging subject, you know. Because we were the other day when we were hanging out, we were talking a lot about Joe Rogan stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I thought about it a lot because like after that, I started seeing like people like putting him in clips of him or interviews he's done with different people that I think are pretty terrible people, and it was just like this I was like constantly have to confront the culture of what Joe Rogan was, you know.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like it was a good perspective because I kept seeing people use the same argument, and that was starting to distress me because it was like, where is there a line where people can start having more legitimate conversations about these topics that Joe Rogan likes to bring up when instead nobody was legitimately making good arguments. It was just, hey, he's just open and you're not, so fuck you. You're fucking, are you triggered now, bitch?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not open as me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, but what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, who are you then? Where are we about to like lead this conversation? It's like, so we're not allowed to like talk about how we should be more empathetic towards oppressed people. Are you saying we're not allowed to do that because that's about to negate somebody else's like perspective on that, and that's not open enough? And it was just, like kind of rocked me for like a couple weeks.
Dude, that's awesome.
You
Because I
know?
remember us talking about that. I was thinking about. I looked into the other dude that I said in the stream,
Mhm.
Hassan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I take stuff from that because we, we were so close, and then
Mhm.
we've had our own lives. All
Yeah.
our 20s.
Mhm.
You were off with Jesse exploring, and I was doing my thing. I went through my addiction. I went through all of my life experiences, and I feel so grateful that what triggered. I just got chills for a second because I'm about to talk about it. Was I started dating Maria,
Mhm.
and you hit me up for Jerusalem Funk. You said,
Mhm.
"Hey, I'm gonna play. I wrote a song for you."
Mhm.
And I remember talking to Maria, and I was like, dude, I haven't even talked to Chris. Like, I think we saw each other once for like a dinner, and it was
Yeah. Yeah.
still like just
Yeah.
really. And then I think I saw you once at like a coffee shop, and you just told me a bunch of crazy stories about South America. But and that was
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah. Yeah.
necessary, but it wasn't like we didn't really catch up. You were just kind of like,
Mhm.
check out all this shit. And like,
Yeah. I
it
know.
was awesome and entertaining, and that was what was
Yeah.
necessary. But we didn't like really connect. It was still like,
Yeah.
you're off on your own journey still, and so am I. And so you wrote this song, which I think I can I'll put a link to Jerusalem Funk in the
Oh, cool. Thanks.
link below. And maybe I'll have one of those cool pop-up things.
Yeah, honestly, even when I wrote that song, I was hoping that it would be a good impetus
Dude,
for us
so
to redevelop our
because
relationship.
connection, like, because we went through a lot of things together,
Yeah.
and you know, we talked about. I'm just gonna touch on it. When you started change, I mean, we both started going our own ways a little bit, right? And that's what happens as people. And you've been a friend of mine for 18, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt hurt whenever we were changing it. We were exploring who we are. So I'm going to tie a bunch of shit together right here.
Yeah.
Talking about the masks, right? I pictured masks when you were saying like liking everything. I wanted to be every single person's friend. So I am drug dealer over here. I am musician who likes prog rock and shit, but I'm also a musician who likes Beatles and like pop music. And I'm a son, and I'm this dude over here. I'm all these different people. They're all LT apparently, but because I need everybody to like me, and I don't know where the fuck I am. I don't even know what I like. I'm just gonna pretend to like everything that you like, and go on all these different things. So we started kind of coming out of that where we were like, well, what like for me, I mean, if we're looking at music, like in that time I got in a relationship for the first time, and I was in love, and I had to experience that. And you were in your relationship, and then music wise, like I found metal, and that it spoke to me on this ancestral fucking level, dude. I really believe that, and that's awesome. And it was kind of like it was that divide, and then you went to Arkansas, and like TJ became a little bit more of a closer friend. I mean, we were all close, but you started going that way, and that's great. And we all started doing things. You went up to Flagstaff. I saw you a couple times while you were up there, and with John Rudow and whatever. And so we both go on this path, and then you hit me up out of the blue and say this, and I hadn't even talked to Maria about you. And then I remember I spent that night telling a bunch of stories and explaining to her this this important relationship in my life, because we're getting to know each other, and that's what you do. And I love her for that, right? For listening and being curious. She's like, so like, then why aren't you guys friends? And I'm like, well, like I feel like we are friends. We just haven't connected in a long time. Like there's this idea of like different, some friendships that go your whole life, and the path just kind of goes. There's some that are seasonal, right? And then there's some that just kind of cross, and then that's it, or whatever.
It kind of reminded me of, it's like how friendships used to be before, or like the day of like the telegram, where it's like,
fuck yeah,
they had like, boy, I was best friends with this guy, and he's living in a different state, and I can't talk to him unless I get a letter from him maybe once a year.
Compared to now where I could hit you up on Instagram anytime.
Yeah.
Right? And if you don't respond, then I'm like, well, I know you saw it because it says red, motherfucker. Right? So you send this invitation to me. You say, hey, I'll get you tickets for it. And because I was like, well, I have a girlfriend. You're like, oh, it's her ticket too, and we're gonna play in Scotts or Phoenix or whatever. And I'd love for you to come. You just said something basic, like you were just extending the hand out, and I was like, fuck, dude, like you wrote a song for me, like I have to go, right? Like, and she's like, dude, this is gonna be awesome. I'm like, yeah, I haven't seen Jerusafunk in fucking 6 years, probably 5 years, like, and there was like so many different things. So I remember going there, and I was telling her, and it was for like Christmas, right? I think I remember wearing like a Christmas sweater or some shit. And then I got to see you, and I didn't really get to see you that much before. And then you played, and we kind of talked a little bit after. And it wasn't like this magic moment. It was nice to see you again, to get a hug and everything. And I saw your family. All these things I hadn't seen for a long time. And you introduced me. You're like, this is Roy Flynn. Like, this is the dude,
Yeah.
And your bandmates were all like, oh my God, like, that's you? Like, and I was like, what? Like, he talks about me? Like, what the fuck? Like, and that was the start, right? And then, we talked a little bit, I think, since then. I wrote a song and showed that to you. And then you were like, hey, this is, we're actually going to publish this song. And I felt like that was the start, though, was when you invited me there, and it was really cool to see you again, right?
Yeah, man, because at that point, I'd been living with my roommate, Joel, who was a band leader of Sun Trio.
Oh, yeah.
And he also lived through is addiction.
Hmm.
But, because it was a mysterious time period because I had heard about your struggle,
Yeah.
but it was, hard to spark our relationship back up to, because I always wanted to know what happened,
Yeah.
but I also like didn't, that was like a new thing in my life. I mean, sort of. Nothing's this like so intimately close.
Yeah.
Like I've had family members that have died from it.
Yeah.
Or distant friends that have struggled with it.
Yeah.
But then seeing Joel and talking with Joel on a daily basis, and I don't know, Joel is obviously a very different person than you, but it really brought out a lot of me. Because when I was writing that, I don't know, it just came out, but it made me want to. I wanted it to be an homage specifically to you and him.
Yeah.
But and the overall the macrocosm of the issue of addiction.
Yeah.
But specifically you two, along with Jesse, because I pretty much the whole first Jerusafunk record is like it's like my edifice to Jesse,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But for that song, it was just like you and Joel were just so influential in everything I've ever done with music.
Yeah.
Because without you, I wouldn't have been able to play with Joel too, But Joel, like, outside of my relationship with Jesse, was like, it felt like you,
Yeah.
in the way
That's
that we
awesome.
explored music together, But it really helped me start to make this path,
Yeah.
of us rebuilding something,
Yeah. And then so we talked, and I remember when I came over. I mean, it was only a few months ago.
Yeah, it's true.
We were both freshly unemployed,
Yeah.
and we talked the whole time. We addressed all these things, right?
Yeah.
We kind of said what our real story was, and I felt so healed after that. I was like, even if I don't see him again, like, dude, this was so necessary. Like, this was
I felt
years in
the
the
same
making.
way.
And I want to bring that back to the whole um the isolation, the way that we say everybody's different. Like you said, you saw some of me and Joel, right? Or some similarities between us. And I've met people too, and we're all people, right? We're all trying to figure this thing out. We all, to get a little Buddhist, right? We all put so much into our identities of like, well, I am a musician and everything else might change, but I'm this, right? Or I am this political affiliation or this nationality. Like these things are all part of us, but we're all ultimately people on this planet Earth, and we're all people. That's like such a core thing that I forget because I forget everything, but I try to come back to that all the time of like, we all, that's the point of this, right? Is to hear everybody's story and to try, I want to learn, right? I want to learn all these people and I want to accept them. I want to break down my own fucked up walls, right? And I want to accept as many people in as I can and know what I don't like and see people for being the person they are, not the genre of music they like or not the what insert thing here, not what all our differences are. Where's our similarities? You know what's similar for everybody? Love, right? And that's a very broad like Beatles thing, right? Or whatever, but it's so fucking true. And we like to forget that. We like to forget, like there's a a dude I love and I'll reference him probably tons of times. Jack Kornfield is a Buddhist teacher, and he's always like referencing his teacher, saying like, when you look in the mirror, like who's looking, right? Like if who's the one, like who are we really, like what even is this human incarnation, right? Because it's not this body, we've established that. So then what the fuck is this, right? And that's in all 7 billion people, like, or however many billion people there are now, who even knows. That's everybody, and they're all dying and we're all being born, and like you said, we're gonna have kids or maybe not that are gonna get a minimum wage job, and I don't know what the fuck's that gonna look like, right? But like it's just, I come back to that because I think it is so important, and I think the more that we can all, it goes back to your whole concept of equity. If we treat each other like we all are people and we all matter, then there's a lot of problems that just go away. I think there's a lot of conflicts that just go away, or at
Totally.
least become solvable, or we can come from a common solution of like, hey, don't you care about people? I also care about people. Like,
Yeah.
let's look at, and it seems like, I think if you asked any person, they would say that, but I don't think when we go on the street and we see that crazy person out in AJ on meth or something, we don't think that they're the same level of person as we are,
Right.
right? We think, well, I know they're a person, but they've got a lot of problems. They've got addiction issues, and they're kind of down here, right?
Mm.
Or if we see the chain gang, picking up trash on the side of the road, modern slavery, right?
Mm-hmm.
We think, oh, but they fucked up in life and got caught, so they're lesser people than we are. We take away their rights to vote. We take away they're less people than we are. We have so many things that do that, and then that becomes a part of our system, and then we just see things like that, like, oh, this person's this color, or this person speaks this language, they're a lesser person than me. They don't speak perfect English. What are they even fucking doing in my space, right? And it becomes easy for me to kind of see all sides of this. Like, that person's trying their best, and this other person has only seen the world from their perspective, and I wish different for them. That's where they're at.
Yeah.
Right. And I wish that, and I hope to promote that. Like, I want to say, you were talking about like the equity and stuff, and it was making me kind of think, what's my intention for this? My ultimate intention, I actually talked to my dad earlier today. My ultimate intention is to learn good. I believe this fundamental truth of life is, the more that I learn to love myself, the more I can love other people, and vice versa. The more I learn to love other people, the more I can love myself. So and that actually ties, I didn't realize that saying ties in with exactly what the name of this is. So that's awesome. But that's a truth. So I want to do both of those things. I want to spread love, and I want to get love from people. And I hope that it's not even about if I get 1 million people listening or I have a couple dozen. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, it literally, that doesn't matter to me. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I want to keep going out and meeting people and hearing stories and learning, because we all have wisdom. Even, I was joking with a friend, like, even if I could interview fucking Hitler, I would. And we'll try to get out of the political shit and talk about what's real, because I bet that even he would have something. I'm like, damn, dude. Like,
yeah, and I think, honestly, like, that is like the most effective thing we could do in conversation.
Yeah.
Is to hear each other. The hardest part, though, is the next part is the dialogue, where a lot of people, I don't know, like how we were saying before, it's okay to be open to everything, but it's also okay to like and dislike things too.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, I think everybody does that. But it's also okay to challenge people on their views,
Yeah.
Because, like,
life's not conflict free.
It's like I think it's important that if everybody wants to be open to everything, which I think they really should, it's like a good, like, diving board into being more strong in your convictions.
Yeah.
Because when you start understanding the larger world, the larger perspectives of everybody, you can be more solid in the things that you love the most, or the things that you are like, your passions. I'm sorry. The more you dive into it, the stronger your passions will be in the things that you love and appreciate the most. And also be more able to have stronger conversations with people. Because I do believe that there are bad things in this world. Because if there is oppression, which I think is ultimately like the worst thing, is people that lead through oppression, they aren't challenged enough in their beliefs. There's not people confronting them enough and holding them accountable. And if you're like, you would go, let's say, like, have an interview with Hitler, per se, hear him out. It's not good enough to just hear somebody out.
No.
You know what I mean?
You're right. And
we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Because, like,
but
that's
it's a starting
also
point.
that's also good for relationships.
Yeah. It's a starting point, though, because I think a big problem with a lot of people is that we're all just like little kids that learn a little bit, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
ultimately we are just,
yeah.
and every kid wants to be heard. At
Hmm.
least I know that was one of my deepest things was
Yeah,
I wanted to be understood and I wanted to be heard. And once you kind of acknowledge that and validate somebody, they will be more open. Like
yeah,
there's that
absolutely.
great Daryl something. I fucking forget his name right now.
Daryl Hall. Nuts.
No, no. He was so he's a person of color. He's a black guy that started having conversations with people that are from the KKK
Hmm.
and other neo-Nazi groups. He was a blues singer playing in bars, and it all and this. So he wrote books on this, and he's gotten like hundreds of people to. They send him their Klan costumes. Send it to him because they gave it up
Oh,
because he just had a conversation with them, like at a bar, and talked, and then they realized all their ideas were that black people were this way, or they're all this way, and then he's the opposite of that. He's just a dude that's a blues musician, and then they suddenly were like, "Well, shit!" Like, and he didn't even have to try to convert them. He just loved on them. He
hmm,
didn't judge them for their old beliefs. He looked at them as hurt, misinformed people, and so he literally just has done this, and it's spread, and he's gotten like some really high up leaders to throw in their clan,
yeah,
right? And like how incredible is that? Just and he did that by just opening up the door to say like, that's okay, you can hate me, I love you, right? Like how powerful is that? And then I mean, he's got his own cool story. I recommend checking out uh the stuff that he's done. He actually was on Joe Rogan too.
hmm,
I had heard about his story on Reddit probably like a few years back, but it was cool to see him on there
hmm,
because he's preaching this thing that aligns a lot with me,
hmm,
right?
hmm,
Um, but like I said, ultimately, like I'm not doing this. Like if I end up getting anything from this, cool. I want to use, as I've talked to you about, if I get anything, if I get any power or notoriety or fame or money, I want to use it to do good.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm getting rid of all my shit because I don't fucking want it, right?
yeah, hmm,
And I do have something. I have this fucking laptop I spent money on, right?
hmm,
And I want to travel, but I want to travel so I can keep meeting people, right?
hmm,
It's kind of like this thing, like you know, if this prayer gets answered, I think it's going to be ultimately good for the world, right?
hmm,
That I can continue to spread and touch more people and and then learn, and then by that I can share that experience with whoever else. If I do this forever or if I do this just for the next couple years, then the next time we have this conversation when I'm back in Arizona, I could be like, dude, I talked to this person or whatever, or you can follow it or what. It doesn't. It just seems so endless to me of the amount of good that I can do.
yeah,
And this is I've looked at all my jobs in the past. This is kind of how I came to this conclusion. I might elaborate this more on like my getting to know me thing, but I know I love to talk to people. I've done sales jobs, I've done customer service, I've done all these fucking things, and I've been told that I would make a good therapist. I've been told I'd make a good lawyer.
hmm,
All these different things, and none of those things were attractive to me.
hmm,
Um, kind of therapist, but like I was like, I don't know, I don't really. But you know what I like? I like having this conversation. I like listening, and then because that gives me stuff to chew on in meditation. In like you said, for the next couple weeks, I can think and
hmm,
refer back. And if I can give that to anybody, like I want that to be more the thing. Not people can do whatever they want, right? As long as it's not hurting people, I really don't give a fuck.
hmm,
But I'd
hmm,
rather see more podcasts and entertainment like this stuff that's, in my opinion, more I don't know, more grounding,
hmm,
right? Than more fluff of like another sports podcast or
hmm, hmm,
another, another thing to lose myself in fantasy like I used to, right? And I still
hmm,
do. I go on YouTube binges, bro, like easily.
yeah,
And that's kind of what it looks like for me. And everybody inserts their thing here of what they and that's we kind of have to do that. Where that's a part of our world for one thing. We have the internet, which is this beautiful thing, but you can't constantly be just working on yourself. Or at least if you can, I don't know how to do that yet because I will probably go insane. I don't know.
Well, I think it's a great platform because ultimately, the biggest message is like empathy,
Yeah.
which when you hear and more people's stories of however they got to where they're at,
Yep.
what other strife, whatever tribulations or privilege got them there. It's important to hear all of it, because there's always something to relate to in there.
For 100%.
From any place in the world. That's what I learned a lot when I was traveling.
I bet.
Um,
Because you're
I
in a
also
lot
learned,
of places where that's like that sense of community and those stories and the
yeah,
connection is utmost importance.
yeah, and also taught me a lot of how I was confronted a lot with like the things that I thought were a big struggle in my life. Turns out were not as bad as I thought they were.
Yeah.
You know,
Get perspective, right?
I mean, and that seems kind of trite a little bit, but man, when you're there and you see it up front, when it's staring at you right in your face, not in your country, because that I think ultimately that was, I think the biggest medicine out of all of it was because I wasn't here, I wasn't able to just be like, just go home.
Yep.
And be like, go back to my privilege, I couldn't just be like, oh, this country, oh, I get it. I just see it. I see it in videos everywhere,
Yeah, yeah.
But while I'm still sitting in my really pretty house or something,
Yeah. Oh, the world's bad out there.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I get it though. I really understand it. I understand how bad it is, sitting eating like potato chips, and it's like when you're there up front and somebody's like right in your face being like, dude, fuck you. Like, why won't you give me $2? Like, are you a fucking piece of shit? Grabbing your shirt.
Yeah.
Why won't you buy my bag of tomatoes?
Yeah.
Like, don't you know? Like, you fuck. Like, you don't need it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I do. I need my $2. Like, no, you don't. Fuck you, man. It's
Yeah.
all every day, man.
Man.
It's like those stories are important.
Yeah, dude, and that you're right, and I think that giving people a chance to say it humanizes them, and I want to try to get as many people,
Yeah.
Not just my people that I've grown up with. Obviously, I'm still just in Arizona. Like, I look forward to getting more people, but I'm actually I've got a couple other people before I leave that I'm hoping to get theirs, and I want to have a diverse thing. And I'm not going to go, I just want to be open to what everyone says. I'm not going to not interview a straight white dude just because that, but I want to have it. I want to have everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited to see that because I want to hear their stories. I don't know what it's like to grow up to be, or having come from like a Mexican American household or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the politically correct term is. I'm trying my best.
That's a very correct term.
Yeah, but like I don't know what that's like. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
went to their houses growing up, but that's like we even said you're like my closest friend growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't know what it was like. So I'm hearing
Mm-hmm.
stories from your mom and your dad. It's just so interesting, things that I never knew.
Yeah, I think about that a lot because I feel like a lot of our friends, they're people of color. We
Yeah,
didn't have we didn't have as many white friends,
no,
but not that that matters or
they're
anything.
mostly Hispanic.
But when you become your friendship is just so much of the identity of each other and all the things you do together.
Yep.
You're around them so much, but even through all that, I still don't know how they felt about
No.
the racism that they probably endured.
Yeah.
Because even through us,
Probably, yeah. Well, because we grew up with it. We related to them because we were all kids growing up on a dirt street, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was like
Mm-hmm.
we that stuff didn't enter into the big picture of what we're doing, but there's definitely all these different ways that I mean, I'm with you. I know that there's, and that's the stuff we're working to uncover, right?
Yeah,
Our
exactly.
biases and stuff like that. When you're a kid, you can't, especially when you have no model for it.
Yeah, right.
All I knew is these guys were my friends, and
Exactly. Yeah.
and my parents, for whatever their beliefs are, they still allowed all these people at my house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I give them that because they've grown out of where their parents were with that,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I think about my extended family growing up in like Arkansas and Oklahoma and stuff like that, like there's no way. But my
Mm-hmm.
parents were like, yeah, you can have your friends over. Like, we're raising you a certain way, so we trust that you're gonna have good friends,
Yeah.
right?
Just don't watch Power Rangers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Shout out to my mom. Don't watch Ninja Turtles. Don't watch Power Rangers. I'm gonna shift this a second.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have another question for you.
Yeah.
I could talk to you all day,
I know.
as we've seen
Yeah.
in our past. So I'll ask you this one: if money was no object, right? If you could do anything right now, what would you do? If Jeff Bezos came in and said he wanted to help you, what would you
Well, that's
do?
two different questions. If I
Oh,
had unlimited money, or if money didn't exist, right? Are you trying to, which one?
I guess I'm saying if funds and opportunity and like whatever were no problem, what would you do?
So where you're the hypotheticals, I have a large amount of wealth that
Yes,
is like an
yes, yes,
endless
yes.
wealth. That would be my endeavor, is to evenly distribute it to as much many communities as I could.
How would you go about
I mean,
that?
this is like, how would I go about that? Pretty much going to any community center that wasn't white, help reestablish some sort of funding in the most oppressed areas, help find ways to promote more political growth for communities that are underrepresented by the government. Obviously, there's so much. It's just like, with unlimited wealth, there's so many problems in this country that could be fixed. With, as far as like resources when it comes to food, creating larger sustainability, creating energy sustainability, reducing the need for police intervention by creating more mental health based intervention institutions, um, just like developing programs so that rich people can, if they so desired, could still be rich, but they would still have to share their wealth in order to create larger equity, a larger community. You know, I hate money only because it's just so just so pathetic to see the people who have the most of it just do so little with it, you know? This idea of creating jobs is just so fucking pathetic. It's just like, it's like when you have a slave owner and they're like, "But I treat my slaves great.
Yeah,
Like, I'm the best
yeah,
slave owner." It's like, "No, I'm the best business owner because I create the most jobs."
yeah.
It's like, I create the most slaves. That's how good I am. Because that's all jobs are. It's wage slavery. So ultimately, endless wealth needs to be redistributed for equity. Because
Infinitely.
they ain't gonna be nothing left in this world if it keeps going this way.
I hear you.
As an amateur historian, it's too fucking painful to see the route we're on.
Yeah.
Because it's never worked when there's the small amount of people have unlimited wealth. Because they're fucking idiots. They're fucking selfish. Because they'll die with it. It's like they think if there is an afterlife, they're like Egyptians, like, all of this hoard of gold that I got is going with me.
Yeah.
God's gonna give me seat number 3, because I got the most money. It's like, that ain't gonna happen. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
So if I had more money, though, I would also pay a lot of people to eat all those people who have them. This could go on and on.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
I have
I like seeing where people go with it.
I got millions of creative ways of things to do with
Yeah,
money.
for sure.
People, I would guess a lot of people would like to invest in space travel, which is a really fun thought, kind of like Star Trek, which I
Yeah.
love Star Trek. But we're not ready for that. I think the only time people should really start exploring the idea of space travel, once we create an equitable labor force, or eliminate the idea of a labor force like in Star Trek, and allow all energy and food to be a renewable source that nobody has to suffer or be oppressed to produce.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, there's no reason to go to any other planet.
So that brings up an interesting thing to me. Again, I'm going to quote Jack Kornfield. He talks about how we have all these things. Like if you look at the technological growth in the last 100 years, or even 50 years, or whatever, it's fucking crazy, right? It's exponentially just out of this world.
Mhm.
We weren't even like me living a state away used to be a few week endeavor 100 years ago,
Mm.
right? And now we can get there this afternoon, like easily. Like we could do it right now. We could go to California, right, to the beach,
Mhm.
probably by sunset.
I know. Yeah. Right.
Like that's insane. Or we could, if we got in a plane, we can go. We can go to.
We get there faster.
Yeah, we can get there even faster. Or we go to another country.
Mhm.
We have the internet. This library of everything that's ever existed, pretty much,
can
like information wise.
Capture audio and
We can
ones and
capture
zeros.
audio on the go. Like I can go literally anywhere and do this thing, right?
Mhm.
Video. All okay, so we've established that. We have all these things, but we still have racism.
Mhm.
We still have all these other things that we've been discussing over the course of this podcast, right? Of ways that we're separate from everyone else. We still have all that. So he talks about we're already advanced technologically.
Mhm.
Like we need to catch up spiritually. We
Mhm.
need to if we don't, it doesn't matter if we have all these things
Exactly.
because it's not going to do us any good because we're not ready for them.
Mhm.
And you put it that way, and it really I've thought about that. I've never heard about space travel, but it makes total sense. It's like, yeah, like what are we doing here? Like what we have this planet right here that's pretty dope, right? There's endless beauty and people with endless story. We're all like, what are we doing with this? We're just gonna throw it away? Like we have
Yeah.
dumps here. Like that that's a crazy like an interesting. I don't know about how other countries do it, but especially like an American thing of like, we just put it out on the curb and then it goes away.
Well, they do that in other countries, but the big difference in at least when I saw in a lot of Latin America, it's either there is a like a public waste service,
Yeah.
or people just burn it.
Yep.
No matter what's in there.
Yep.
And that's because there's a lack of infrastructure that have all been destroyed by the United States.
Or information.
Information, lack of education,
Yep.
and also there's just like no other option.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also,
what do they do?
and then on top of that, it's the overproduction of these commercial products that are these terrible things that can't be burned because they're poisonous, but they do them anyway.
Yeah. Well, I look at it even when I've gone camping. You know, how much I actually like how much trash I actually make when I specifically didn't pack really anything that was like separately packaged or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I still always have a bag of trash, and that's just for like a day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I'm doing this every single day,
Yeah, it's crazy.
and there's 400 million people here that are all doing that every single day, and then you have the whole world. It's like, what?
I will say, just because I'm here, I will absolutely acknowledge that Jessie, my girlfriend, is a remarkable person, and she tries to confront that every day of being incredibly less wasteful.
That's
and
awesome.
I'm terrible at it. Because I've cut a lot of times I concede to the despair of it all, where it's like, of course, I don't want to make this much waste, this toxic waste that like is gonna ruin the world. But and like, if only the options were better.
Yeah.
But I can see, and I know it could be, but I want to say it publicly. Jessie's doing an incredible.
Jessie is doing God's work.
She's doing the best, much better than me.
Well, so, but this is the thing, though. I think it's an important lesson, right? Is that you are doing more now than what you used to, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's so many different ways people go on this debate. I think everybody agrees that it's a problem. There's some people that say like, well, I'll start doing shit once corporations stop doing their shit, right? And everybody wants to pass blame like, well, I don't even waste that much. These people waste way more. They're the ones that need to fix their shit. Or like, I want to keep using straws or insert thing here. Or people get hung up on the opposite of that. I was working as a server at a vegan restaurant. And there's this one girl that she was like abhorred and fucking disgusted when people use straws, and she would like confront them. I can't believe you're using a fucking straw. I'm like, dude, I got a huge beard and shit. Like, I try to use this. I use the same cup like all week, or at least that's the goal. But like, It still wasn't enough. It was like, no, you need to be even better. And I think that bless her, right? She
Mhm.
actually ended up getting us to use reusable straws. She got
Cool.
the owner to do it. So she fucking achieved her success.
Uh,
But I think the way person went about it was through guilt and shame. And I don't think that didn't make me feel good. It made me feel attacked. And it made me
yeah.
kind of want to say, you know what? Fuck you. I'm going to use 2 straws next time, right? I'm going to just throw it away in front of you, right?
Mm,
That's what it, because when we feel attacked, we want to attack back. That's a very human thing with
I
whatever.
know. And that's kind of an interesting point too, where like it, nobody really likes that confrontation.
No.
Feel attacked, but you know, somebody's got to do it,
And
and only in the way that I'll say like, and that's like, if we're all trying to be spiritually more evolved,
yeah,
ultimately when we feel that largest sense of guilt, that's because we feel attacked. When we're attacked, we feel that guilt because that is real. It's like a unique opportunity of that guilt.
yeah,
Nobody really likes feeling that way,
no,
you know, and I don't either,
yeah,
and I know it sucks,
yeah.
but
There's different ways to do it though.
I agree. I agree. There's different ways to do it, but I think there's something in particular about this country that has fed that culture of, like you're saying, like the blame pointing somewhere else.
Yeah,
It's because we're not held accountable enough
no.
in this country. A lot of people of color are absolutely held accountable. And I'm not saying I don't want to tie straw guilt to that.
Seriously.
You know what I
No, I
mean?
get what you're saying though.
But it's like analogous to it,
Yeah, yeah, I got you.
where we have a unique opportunity to always push off guilt, to push off accountability. And for some reason we can do that. It's crazy that we get away with it on a daily basis too,
Yeah,
on everything. And it's like that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes. It's like, oh my God, like I really got away with that.
yeah,
And then it becomes habitual, and then when you're really, really pushed, and you're like, oh, then you fight back. You don't want to be the one held accountable.
no.
you know.
Well, no, and I mean, and that's where we get into.
Sorry, I was getting into that because
No, no,
it's
no,
like, hey,
no.
yeah, let's push some buttons with each other here. You
It
know what I
is.
mean?
Well, I mean, you're not.
I'm not I'm not saying you
Hopefully, you're
shouldn't be
not
in that,
pushing my butt.
but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some deep, weird psychological
No, fuck yeah, dude.
thing here.
I really do agree with. I don't have like a super strong opinion about a lot of stuff. Is like and maybe I should, and maybe that's something I'm exploring. Maybe I will have more. There's a lot of things that I just don't see getting anywhere with, and where I end up doing is trying to focus my efforts on what I can do.
Right.
And that's and at I've gone. I've gone not from apathy because I used to just call it that.
Uh
It's
huh.
not that I don't care. It's that it feels futile, and
Hmm.
I only have so much energy in my tank, and I want to use it to do what good I can.
Right. And I'm in the same boat.
Yeah,
I like trying to find a more empathic way to make somebody like think about what they're doing.
yeah.
You know.
But it it's one of those things where we're limited. We're all children, right?
Hmm.
So sometimes the way to get attention is to throw your toy across the room, right?
Hmm.
Um, and hopefully your parent doesn't throw something at you because you threw something at them,
Yeah.
right? And I look at my own experience. Like obviously that girl impacted the way things went, right? And she brought up the conversation, right? And it actually made me talk to Maria about it, and Maria brought up really good points to me. But she did it from this. It opened up the dialogue. So what she did. So this girl actually did have an impact in my life. She made me pissed off at her, right, and feel
Hmm.
resentful to the point where I talk about this person who loves me in this
Hmm.
unconditional way. And then that person was able to say like, well, she does have some points,
Hmm.
right? And I'm like, I'm willing to, and I try not to let my ego get out of control. I'm not gonna say here and say like, yeah, but like whatever. Like, you're right. Let's focus on the points. thank you for hearing me on why I feel attacked, why I feel like she's trying to put
Mhm.
all of this on me. But let's talk about what she's really trying to get at.
Yeah.
And there is a lot that you can change, LT. She's like, I know you only take like 1 shower a day, but you have some days where you take like a 15, 20-minute shower.
Mhm.
And I know you don't lay down in the shower anymore, but you stay in there and you write metal songs, right? It's the best place, dude, showers. And 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 here's the thing, like, that's okay.
Yeah.
This is you're right. You're privileged to live in the 20th century, 21st century, where you can have a hot shower and do all these things, but like, do you have to do that all the time?
Mhm.
And could you maybe look at ways to reduce it? My first instinct with her was to say like, well, there's other, and I didn't say it. I was just like I went through that whole dialogue though. I could tell her,
Mhm.
you know what? There's other people wasting way more, or you know what? I like this thing and I'm creative. And but I was like, you know what? You're right. Like I don't need to,
Mhm.
and that gives me something to think about. I can't say
Mhm.
what that'll look like for me, but now I have this. Now the next time I go take a shower, this is going to be in my head. And it wasn't in this, you need to fucking stop it. It's like, well, but look at what you're doing, right? And look at what you could be doing, and look at ways that you could minimize and reduce and stuff. And like, to for instance, the two things that came from this was, one, if I go to restaurants, I specifically don't get straws.
Mhm.
That's what's come up.
Mhm.
If they put it in my drink, like when I went somewhere, like that's fine, I'll use it. But like, I am not asking for a straw
Mhm. Mhm.
or anything like that, and I don't have any straws in my house or anything like that. So I'm trying that was solved, right?
Mhm.
Or at least I'm trying to do my part with the sea turtles and the fucking straws at their nose. And then when I take showers, what I've done is I don't use I just have organic or like natural ingredient bar soap
Mhm.
for everything.
Mhm.
And I've cut my hair
Mhm.
and I have my beard and I have like this like tea tree oil stuff that I'll put in my beard after the shower. So now I'm not even shampoo, condition, and washing. All I have to do is wash.
Mhm.
And is there some days that I get super inspired and I want to just scream in the shower? That happens, but I can tell you that I'm always conscious of it.
Mhm.
Like if I get in the shower and I'm not feeling creative, I'm out in like 3 minutes now.
Mhm.
It's like this, and because of the conversation that I had with my girlfriend
Yeah.
Maria, right, and her loving me and telling me there's still more to do, right?
Yeah.
There's this I think it's a Gandhi quote, like, or maybe it's Dalai Lama. I suck for getting those mixed up. Let's say it's Dalai Lama because he's usually all about this. You're perfect the way you are, but you're perfect the way you are, but there's room for improvement,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's I love that message, and again, not everybody has a person in their life that shows them love and like can
Yeah.
point out things like that. I have sought that out because of my life and experiences, and that would take forever to talk about that, but I try to be that for people. When I've sponsored people in addiction,
Mhm.
there's a lot of shit that comes up when we're doing our steps. I mean, I went through AA, right? But when you're looking back at the wreckage that you caused
Mhm.
and telling somebody, look, you did this shit. You fucked people over, dude.
Mhm.
There's a lot of accountability. There's a lot of
That's great.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
growth that comes up in facing that. And I know a lot of people don't have that. They never had to sit across from a dude. The fourth steps, which is what that is, like the inventory takes 4 to 8 hours. You're talking to this
Mhm.
person if you've done a lot of writing like I had, and it's a nonstop conversation. You're outside chain smoking and talking, and you're going over everything you fucking done that's bad and all the ways people hurt you, and then you look at your part in it, and it starts building. That was like the foundation for me really taking a look at each thing that I've done, was looking at like, well, this person hurt me, but like I remember I'll say a really basic example. I was mad at this person because they stole my iPod. How did my iPod get stolen? What was my part? I had to look at that. Well,
Mhm.
I got too high and passed out at a trap house
Mhm.
where there is very sketch people around.
Mhm.
So, yeah, of course one of them's going to take it
Mhm.
and go pawn it for drugs. Like
Mhm.
my part in that, I mean, you could get into whatever, but was I was in a very unsafe place in the
Mhm.
first place where that is something that could happen. You know what I could do is just not be there, and you know what? It probably wouldn't get stolen,
Mhm.
right? Or whatever. And I mean, I could go into a whole fucking thing about four steps, but building up the fact that, oh, we can have conversations like this. I've had difficult ones with
Mm,
sponsees where it was like, you did this, right? And it's this thing, they're not getting mad, but they have to let it sink in. And it's a
mhm,
safe place, and they know I love them no matter what.
mhm,
And I think a lot of people don't feel that, right? They feel
mm.
attacked, and it's this person that doesn't know anything fucking about them.
That's true. That's true.
And like that one woman, I'm like, you're gonna attack me for this shit? Like, you don't even fucking know me. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, these are all just really interesting ideas because, like, imagine if people were just had to deal with that more often in their life, with now having it to be a part of their addiction.
yeah.
It's like,
Oh yeah, if this was a thing that the tool that people had,
it's like imagine being like, because it's so funny because it's like I was saying, like this is like pinpointing a really interesting psychosis of I think this country in particular,
yeah.
where like there are countries in South Central American countries, like the whole country's like, hey, United States, you're fucking us. Stop fucking up our country. Stop intervening. Stop ruining everything. And they're like, hey,
La 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 la.
are you don't attack me.
Yeah,
Like, you
yeah,
shouldn't make me feel guilty,
yeah.
you know. But if like imagine if like
Well, because they say, yeah, American people, like, you're talking to me? Like, they can't be talking to me. They don't even. What?
yeah, but it's true. We all are complicit in that.
We're all the same tribe, right? Apparently.
We're complicit in the system, which absolutely benefits from us being complicit and ignoring the fact of how many people
Yeah.
we ruin.
Well, yeah, but and then we talk about like we're complicit in the system that we don't even really want to be a part of, but there's nothing else there. So then
We're
we,
complicit in the system of that creates so much waste that puts straws in sea turtles' noses.
yeah, fucking dumb sea turtles.
Don't you have any fucking nostrils?
You fucking, what are you doing with those straws? Duh.
Just get out of the way.
But yeah, it's a weird thing. There's a thing that gets talked about in AA where they're like, imagine if all, and I don't like saying the word normal people. Imagine if all non-alcoholics did this. Like there was a portion in your life when you're like 25 years old where it's like, all right, let's take a look back at all these things.
Mm-hmm.
If that was a thing that people just did on a regular basis, how different would people act, right? And not that I don't think that just because someone's done that once, it gives them some perspective though. And a lot of times that's
Mm-hmm.
enough for them to look at the old way they were living and to try to live some way different. Whether that is just abstaining or whether that's continuing to say, you know what? I got to get even better. I got to keep leveling this shit up.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is, I think that it is one of those things that's interesting.
I think so too. In an ideal world, hey, if we have an endless wealth, everybody gets yearly of fucking therapy.
Yeah, well, therapy, and then we're breaking. I mean, we can go a lot of different ways with this, but I think that breaking these ancestral wounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
These ancestral patterns of in our lifetime racism, right? I talked about my dad
Mm-hmm.
being less racist than his dad. I'm pretty sure your dad was probably less racist than his dad. Maybe not. We're all shaped by our experiences, and we're trying to, now that we're older, educate and learn, right? Where we're coming from with this and what we can do and what our power really is, and try to make things better for our kids or for our
Mm-hmm.
friends' generations that's coming up, right? We want to make this world even better so they can focus less on that and focus on even more of the problems. And hopefully this shit's a byproduct of generations ago at a certain point. Hopefully the world's not over and all this other stuff. And they could say like, man, they had these problems just 100 years ago. Like, good
Mm-hmm.
thing there was people that sought to get away from that,
Mm-hmm.
that wanted to end these problems so we could focus on getting to another fucking planet, right? Or whatever. I think that every little thing that we do we heal our, I mean, if I don't know how you are with like parallel universes and different incarnations and all this other stuff, but like I think there's a connection with all that. And I do believe in ancestral stuff. Like there is wounds from 100 generations ago that are passed down to me,
Mm-hmm.
or passed down generation to generation. And it's up to each person to acknowledge, like, you know what? Just like those other people, like this was put upon me, and what am I going to do about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we all have something different. We're all healing from something different. Our childhoods, sexual abuse or whatever it is. We're all, if I just play the victim with it, then guess what? I'm gonna end up having a kid, and then I'm gonna put the same shit on them, right? We see it time and time again where patterns get repeated. History, right? You said amateur historian. You see these patterns get repeated. They don't have to though.
Mm-hmm.
We can heal and get better and break this shit. And then, but we have to stay vigilant too, right? And there's all these other things that come into it, but I think I ultimately can only change myself.
Yeah.
And I want to grow and cultivate and make a community of friends that see that and they're like, yes, we want more of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want more of that. And the more that grows, like, it's a yin yang thing. There's only so much space for negative and bad things, right?
Mm-hmm.
They get filtered out by these other like positive and beneficial things. It's just how it happens. When you have more positive thoughts on a daily basis, there's less negative thoughts because you can only have so many thoughts a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to do that. I try to focus on what I'm feeding myself, physically, right? Mentally, spiritually, like all these different things. Conversations like this. This is the stuff that really feeds me
Mm-hmm.
in a sustainable way, right? To where I'm not, instead of tonight, 1 a.m, wanting to go to QT to get a bunch of fucking snacks and shitty taquitos and no judgment on QT, just stuff that I used to go there and get like $20 worth of fucking snacks, come home, eat all of them,
Mm-hmm.
and then wake up the next morning and be like, oh god, like I feel like shit. I ate Skittles and beef jerky and taquitos, like that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. That's all I ate at 1 a.m, right? And donuts and shit. And instead of doing that tonight, this is where I was going with that, is I can think about, dude, Chris was bringing up some really good fucking points,
Mm-hmm.
And I feel good that I had that conversation. I'm not seeking stuff outside. I'm taken care of, right?
Mm-hmm.
That hole in my soul is gone, is filled up for the day,
Yeah.
and maybe for a few more days. Who knows? This stuff sustains us for a while, and that's the stuff that really matters.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, man. I mean, as long as people get to like hear, converse, and just explore options,
Yeah.
and not treat the world as a yin and yang, because like the world isn't like that.
No.
Like nothing is truly broken down into a 1 or a 0.
Gives a good visual.
Except electrons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like those
Even that,
microparticles,
yeah.
the atomic particles. But yeah, even that, we keep finding different ones.
Yeah.
But
But it gives us an idea.
Yeah. It's so important, man. As long as people just keep thinking and critically thinking and being willing and being humble through it all. And you brought up breaking the ancestral patterns. Like, for me, I think a big wake-up call for that is that if we want to break an ancestral pattern, white people need to be held accountable for all the atrocities, which has never happened ever. Talk about breaking patterns,
Yeah.
As
Yeah,
much as
yeah.
that sounds like a negative concept, which I agree with you, living a life with a positive light will help diminish these negative atrocities or just insignificant things that plague us and make us act differently and not healthfully in our lives. Something can be extremely helpful, something that we think is negative, like retribution sometimes. I don't know.
I think people have different ideas of what that means.
I agree. But like, I'm interested in the prospect of there being retribution on white people, because we've gone away with it for so long, and black people don't, like, they're good. I think they're better than revenge, because at any point they absolutely deserve to have their revenge. And a lot of people feel like they don't deserve to be a victim of that retribution. Well, and a lot of black people also feel like they didn't deserve to be victims of oppression.
Yeah.
They didn't choose to be born black, but they also didn't choose to be born in a system that oppresses them,
yeah,
treats them like less than people. It's kind of an interesting thing to carry. Like, when is that day gonna happen? And how will people like be strong through it?
And what will it look like too?
What will it look like? Nobody really knows. For me, I think of that as a positive thing, where there's like that to me that shows balance because we're in the middle of imbalance, an extreme imbalance,
Mhm.
and as long like so many people have gotten away without being held accountable for what they are, how they do things. It'd be really cool. I think it'd be awesome to watch people have to fucking endure something hard for once.
Yeah.
Because they haven't. And that's also subjective.
Yeah.
Which I concede. And I also know that even from my perspective, the things that I've struggled with is pales in comparison to what a lot of other people have. But it's easy to see when somebody has endured so little.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing, you know. I don't know how I really feel completely about that. I haven't explored it, I guess, that much. Because I do think that like something that I believe is that for one this is another I don't have many truths in this life.
Yeah.
At least I don't say that word. I try to be very careful with the way I word things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another truth of this life I believe is that everybody's doing the best they can
Mm-hmm.
all the time.
Yeah.
Because I know that's been my experience. Even when I was stealing or doing dope or whatever the fuck I was doing the best I could, right? And I think that these whatever ends up happening with any of this stuff, people are doing the best that they can. I think we all have different ideas of where we need to aim to, right? But when I think about other people's struggles and stuff, I think at every single moment, I think you probably have struggles going on right now
Mm-hmm.
that I don't know about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what your past was that shaped you to be in this point. And we have this, we all have this grass is greener mentality of like, I'll just throw out like addiction issues. Like, well, I don't have any issues with gambling, Chris. You need to stop gambling, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a problem for you. Can't you see it's a big fucking problem? Why don't you just stop,
Mm-hmm.
right? We all have that sort of intolerance to, well, you're overeating,
Mm-hmm.
or this insert, why don't you just not drink so much, or blah, 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 or like, why do you buy so much shit, or why are you working so much, or all these different things. We don't have an understanding for where other people's hurt is.
Yeah.
I remember hearing this, and I am curious what your perspective is. I remember them saying, like, when I was in rehab, they were like, you have it, like, it was like the same shit we grew up with. Like, you have it so much better than somebody growing up in, like, Ethiopia or,
Mm-hmm.
some third world country in Africa. And I remember that was just so in and out when I was a kid. And then when I was an adult, I'm sitting here in rehab, like 20 something years old, right? And I'm like, dude, you know what? Like, I get what you're saying, and I can see that they have problems I don't even fucking know about. You know what this kid doesn't know about? He doesn't know what it's like to be a homeless fucking heroin addict in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying here's the problem that I think a lot of people, and this is maybe what's kind of controversial, is we try to compare what our difficulties are and our
Mm-hmm.
pains are. I don't know what it's like to wake up in the middle of the desert and have to go hunt for food,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's my main thing, is to provide food for me and my tribe. And that's it. If I do that, I've accomplished it. We have a party at that night. We play
Mm-hmm.
fucking music and we dance. And the next day it's the same thing because
Mm-hmm.
we got to live another day. I don't know what that's fucking like. And this kid also doesn't know what it's like to have extreme, isolation, no community, no like anxiety all the time, to where I'm going out to get drugs just to self-medicate so I can get through the day, right?
Right.
We're both just trying to survive,
Mm-hmm.
but it looks different. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that anyone is worse than other. I think they're different, and I think that we're all humans and we're adaptable, right?
Yeah.
So because you see these people that grow up in like the sex slavery trade, right? Kids that grow up in that, and then they persevere because that's what we as people do. We
Mm-hmm.
adapt, we persevere, and we grow, and then there's other people that don't make it, right? Or there's other
Mm-hmm.
people that's their story for their whole life, and there's other people that adapt differently, and they anyway, we all have a different story, and I think that we put a lot into, well, this one's worse than this one.
Mm-hmm.
When I think, again, I'm not trying to make it just easy, but we're all just people, right? And you have these struggles going on right now that I don't even know what they are, man.
Yeah, it's interesting that people still use that because I feel like that's what they try to. It's like, how do I put it? It's like a real American way to try and humble like other Americans
Hmm.
when that itself is a really privileged.
You mean like what I just said?
Like somebody being like, well, you think you got it bad? Imagine being a kid in Ethiopia.
Oh yeah, yeah,
It's like, well, who the fuck are you to say that?
yeah,
Like, can you even like really understand the statement you're making?
yeah,
Because like, yeah, I agree where you are absolutely going through when you're in that situation of like whatever rehab.
yeah,
And even having to be told that is signifying like a really low point,
yeah,
you know? And ultimately, like, I think that argument is just so, for coming from them, like, it's just so privileged too,
yeah,
because you can't just like dish out that and then go fucking home
yeah,
with your big TV and shit,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But there is something to that. And the problem with that is just like it's become such a staple comment on or justifiable statement to make somebody feel something different. When in all reality, if you had that opportunity, absolutely it would change your perspective on that.
For
And that's what's so crazy is like you could almost equally get the same sort of feeling by meeting another junkie that probably has it worse than you. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
and
it's
that
a
and that's a thing where
mhm,
it's a pissing contest, right?
exactly.
And yeah, go ahead. I didn't mean to
But
interrupt you.
yeah, I mean, but obviously there's just a larger there's a macrocosm to the problems with obviously trying to compare yourself to like the poor situation of another country because that's like
Yeah,
that's too big of a problem to be like your life is much better than you think it is.
yeah. Well,
You know what I mean?
ultimately comparing, it's always apples to oranges because
Yeah,
none of us are the same,
exactly.
right? In trying to do that, it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to achieve what you're trying to do, and we don't need to compare ourselves to. Like I hated that. I'm trying really hard not to do too personal things because I don't know who's going to listen to this. But like I remember growing up, and I got my first B on a report card, right?
Hmm.
And I remember my dad being so because I was straight A's forever, and then he was like, "That one girl down the street, she still got straight A's. How come you didn't get straight A's?"
Mm,
And I was like, "The fuck? Like, what am I supposed to say to that?" Right? I'm like,
mm,
what, 12 years old, 13 years old, and then suddenly it's you're not good enough. Look at this other
mm,
person. You need to be like them.
mm,
That illustrates kind of what I'm saying with all these things. Like, well, you think you're bad, you could be so much worse. Like
mm.
that's what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Like, and I get we all have these experiences, and the point is that I don't know. I guess if there's a point, but
I think the whole point is that we all need to commiserate.
yeah,
And the ability to acknowledge the fact that everybody does have a struggle.
yeah,
Some have it less than others, but the fact that like if we allow each other to communicate that to each other,
yeah,
it humanizes everybody.
for sure.
Even if somebody's fucking misery is something super mundane and trite, but that effort to try and relate to anybody, if you can like if you can allow an affluent person to get any glimpse
Yeah,
of what the struggle of any poor person on this planet goes through,
yeah,
if it translated through mundane bullshit to like a real life like
yeah,
a like atrocity,
yeah,
that is like an effort of itself.
yeah.
But you can't do that without more contact. You can't do it with just a simple statement of being like, "You have it so good, fuck you."
No, yeah,
You
and
know,
and that's a
you can't like that's just diminishing
yeah,
your struggle.
that's a product of where we're at with this, right? We keep
Mm-hmm.
everybody. Let me just let me just have my apartment. Let me just have my TV. We don't promote any sort of that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no spot where, like they show those things on TV or YouTube videos where it's like celebrities have to guess the price of shopping and shit. Like they're so in a different fucking place than us. right? Like certain people that like they're not seeing the same America that we are,
Hmm.
right? They're not seeing the place where we grew up. Like we have our own experiences, uh, and our own perspectives, and so does everyone else. I don't know what it's like to grow up in fucking Louisiana. I'm from Arizona, born and raised here.
Hmm.
No fucking idea what it's like to live there at all. I've had Cajun food. Like that's, and I don't even know how real Cajun it is.
I've heard jazz music.
I dated a girl whose mom was from Louisiana, and
Uh.
she made gumbo for me.
I listened to Louis Armstrong.
There you go. Exactly. So that's it. But we're all Americans,
Right.
which is fucking crazy. And like I don't even know where the fucking going with that, but it's just look, we all have such a different perspective, right? And then even my parents or even me and you, like we've even like in the first 10 years of our life, we saw the world completely different if we had a way to articulate that.
Hmm.
Like how insane is that?
I think the next step for society to move forward,
Telepathic communication.
like octopi, change our skin color to really communicate anything, because it's
Yeah.
all we need to communicate.
For sure.
No,
Sorry.
is that poor people and middle class people need to stop seeing each other as different. I think as much as like this, we were talking about, everybody deserves to be seen as human and commiserate with each other.
Mhm.
But I still don't think that's good enough to feel bad for rich people. I think ultimately we should, but we shouldn't feel that way right now. There's like, right now, the divisiveness of this world, the classism that occurs, should not exist between the poorest people on this planet,
Yeah.
And the only people that are doing that, are convincing us to do that, are rich people.
Yeah.
Because they have the most to lose.
Yeah. No, I see exactly where you're coming from with that.
And they are human. Not all rich people are bad. And I won't ever say that they all are.
Yeah.
But it's bad that they hoard wealth.
Yeah.
That's bad. So fuck that.
Yeah. I get where you're.
And I think it's a cool, for me, a cool perspective, in the sense that like it's a good way to empower yourself as a poor person without a whole lot of financial standing, a whole lot of power on this planet.
Yep.
But that the most empowered thing you can do is to humble a rich person and not allow them to be a victim, because they're not.
Yeah.
When will they be?
I think that they might be victims in other ways, but not in that way.
Yeah, if it's sexual abuse, yes.
Yeah.
There's like emotional abuse.
Because I think that even the most, like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or insert person here, they still have struggles, right? But I'm with you in the fact that it's one of those things, like I have an expectation of them. Like if I was in that position, I would act differently.
Yeah.
But I don't know what their fucking life is.
I don't either, and I'm just speaking maybe, and this is also clearly bitterness.
But that's valid.
I think it is valid. I think, like I said, a step forward in the society in order to create this more open, humbling, emotionally transparent society is that poor people and middle class people need to stop seeing each other as different.
I think that that's a fucking great place to start.
You know what I mean? As a trajectory.
Yes. Yeah,
to change.
Well, because I said those couple of examples earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
People panhandling or people that are inmates, right? We're all in this together, man.
Yeah.
But we don't. That's just a phrase. We don't do that.
But we're not. We say that, but we're not.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's just words, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that brings me to, I'm going to ask you another question.
Yeah.
What's the meaning of life, Chris? I know that's a kind of cliche one, but I think there's a lot in that.
Since you know me so well,
Mm-hmm.
and we've known each other for so long, in the 10 years that we spent apart from each other, we've learned a lot of new things,
Uh-huh.
I have been, like I mentioned earlier, my brief touch with death with the staph infection was like, shook me for a long time.
Yeah.
I was in an immense depression for almost a year.
Yeah.
Definitely suicidal in that sense.
I did not know all that.
But it wasn't even like, it was never that point where I wanted to kill myself.
You still want to live.
Yeah, I didn't have any reason to,
Been there.
you know?
In my own way, yeah.
It's like the only thing I'm like, it seemed, I always felt it seemed really easy to just dip out.
Yeah.
You know? It felt really, I don't want to say selfish, because like I just don't believe that.
Yeah.
I think I find a lot of people who commit suicide, I see them as being very powerful people who made a choice that is a hard one, you know? But I chose the route that, like, maybe there is something more. That, like, if I don't do this, if I won't go that route, what am I going to do with my life?
Yeah.
Because that sounds great.
Yeah.
And that's never really left me. I still feel that way. And I've talked with, I've been very open about that with many relationships in my life.
Yeah.
Because, I don't believe in divine powers. I'm iffy on reincarnation. I'm iffy on karma. A lot of those things feel bullshit to me. I've come close. I've gone as far as I could with meditation, with attempts to unlock my consciousness, to unravel reality around me,
yeah.
And I found no answers. The farthest I ever went with hallucinogens, all I got was blackness. No message. Which the only message it took me a long time to sit on that and understand what that meant. Which meant that, like, maybe that is what's there, for me. I don't want to go there yet.
Yeah.
That sounds shitty. Where it's like, if everything is everything, then everything is also nothing.
Yeah.
So nothing is also everything.
Yeah.
And I was on that realm.
Yeah.
I was only nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I've pursued my whole life enjoying life. No matter what.
Yeah.
I don't need money to enjoy my life.
No.
And if there's and music was the centerpiece of all of it. It's like the only thing that, out of, no matter how much logic or how much critical analysis, how much fucking how objective I could be on this reality, music is the only thing that was that felt like magic still.
Mm.
It was like this one pure piece of fantasy that was worth pursuing and giving life meaning for me.
Wow. Yeah.
Because and it just it helped me relate more, helped me enjoy relationships more, it helped me see the world in much more beautiful terms in that realm.
Yeah.
Everywhere I went in Central and South America, it was just I don't know, transcendental. It's like, how could there be anything better than this?
Yeah.
How could there be a heaven that's better? That's impossible.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
Paradise. There's paradise everywhere.
I'm of that. I can relate with that mindset too of the whole heaven on earth notion, or it's in this moment, right?
Yeah, and I'm not. I mean, I want to spend any time.
No, we're not gonna.
Into
we can spend hours on that.
I know.
No, but
religious critique.
But I'm with you on the fact that it is available right here, right? I've experienced that. And
it's, I don't know. It's like changing that perspective in my life has given so much more meaning to everything else. Mm-hmm. And that sounds a little I don't want that to sound cliche.
No.
But it's it's affected every choice I make.
Yeah.
What am I doing when I'm at my job? How am I acting to the people that at my job? What am I going through when I'm playing video games, or I'm watching a movie, I'm listening to a record, I'm walking in the desert, I'm working in the garden, or any conversation, like why is it also so awesome?
Dude, that's amazing though. You know how many people, first I wanted to say cliches are that for a reason, right?
Yeah, truly.
And that's one thing I know that I'm gonna probably say every single podcast is
That's good. That's
telling
great.
somebody, because I feel that way too, right? About like power of love and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But how amazing is that you feel that way in a lot of aspects of your life? I think there's a lot of people that just want that.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably talked to people that said that, like, wow, like that's what I'm working for, right?
Yeah, and it was interesting, because we were going through a lot when we were living in Tempe together with TJ, and I was going deep into that.
Going deep, yeah. Big
and...
pharma.
Big pharma. But even like everything we went through together, all Ari and all my friends from Red Mountain, it was just like crazy. Yeah. How that moment where it's like maybe was that ego death. It wasn't even ego death. It was like ego confrontation of my desire for the divine.
Yeah.
Because I remember before that, it was like I spent so much time trying to understand what this divine feeling everybody got. Because I grew up Catholic. I was like, I don't know why everybody's so emotional right now. Like, what are they feeling? What is this stuff they're talking about with God? Like, why are people reacting to that? What is this fucking feeling that I'm not getting? What is this hollow divinity that I'm absolutely not a part of right now? And then I was in a relationship with Megan, who wasn't Catholic, and she was non-denominational Christian, going to her church, going to TJ's church, just going through. I was like, I wanted this. I was like, where's the deeper answer of life in all these?
Yeah.
But going all the time, feeling nothing, no divinity.
Yeah.
Taking way too many drugs.
Yeah.
Way too many hallucinogens. Listening to so many lectures on the divine, on mythology.
Yeah.
All these people being like, oh, and I was filled with it. Or I talked to aliens. I talked to God, and I talked to like all these things. It's like never happened to me. Ever. Not once. Kind of reminds me of this anime I'm watching, Black Clover. Everybody in this universe has magic. Everybody either has a lot of it and can produce grand magic spells, or they can do ordinary mundane tasks, but everybody has magic except for the main character, who's totally void of it, has no inkling of it, and is like achieves all these incredible feats mostly because of his own sheer will,
Wow, that's cool.
Without magic. And ironically, even as I'm 32 still watching fucking cartoons, relate so much in a weird way where it's like God damn, I get
it tells it perfectly. Yeah.
It's like I don't feel that emptiness of divinity. But it's like, it's interesting because I got really into Joseph Campbell. And it was part of my own endeavor of researching a lot of like mythologies around the world and mysticism. And there's something about studying world mythology where outside of monotheism, most polytheistic religions are all pagan is a bad word, but it's more of like projecting divinity onto the real world. Where like in Hinduism, in Hinduism, like they kind of have a stratified god system, but it's all just mostly out of mythological terms. They don't actually, or at least originally, they didn't really believe there was like Brahma, who was just asleep. They, every moment of their life, every real thing that they saw was a divine being. That's why there's shrines throughout India that what's like it's like an apotheosis for every object. The natural world is the divine thing.
Yeah.
And I've kind of like subscribed myself to a lot of that too. It's like if there's any belief system to subscribe to, it's just the natural world.
Yeah.
Which kind of helps me out a lot
That's
in my pursuit of just enduring the life.
yeah. I think I don't know. I mean, I appreciate you sharing that, dude. I can relate a lot to it, and I know people that have talked about, like the natural order of things and just this world and stuff, and they find it, especially. I mean, you went to all these places in South America. A lot of us find it by camping or by hiking, right? And we kind of can feel that connection to this amazing place that we live, right? In this natural order of things. Yeah, I'm not gonna. I'd like to leave it at that, just because I think it's good.
It's like an interest. It's like, and it's not to like pull away from other people's sensation of the divine.
No,
I just don't relate.
No,
but it's interesting because like the way Joseph Campbell describes it, why we do that is because there's something very special about us, humans. Why do we think things are beautiful? What is that sensation in us?
That's a good question.
And instead of like pondering, trying to like reduce it to some sort of like component that we have to like objectify, it just can exist. Like why are songs beautiful? Like, is there actually? And I'm not talking about like the components. It's that feeling that we all understand.
Yeah.
Why is something beautiful? What is that thing that we project onto reality that is beautiful? That is mythologizing things.
Yeah.
That is what mythology is.
Yeah.
Art is the participation of mythology, which was so crazy because like I was enduring my weird depression, but always holding on to music as like my foundation. But then reading a lot of his material was like, oh boy, this is like, validating this path I'm like undergoing.
And that's so, dude. I love hearing that.
Yeah, I recommend his books. You will love them because they're fucking on point.
Yeah, they're like Gumo. Last thing, because we'll tie this up. I don't even know how long we've gone. The only times I check my phone is because I got messages, so I apologize.
Yeah, we're like 3 hours in.
Are we really?
Yeah.
No shit.
Just about.
We got a real one coming here, dude.
Yeah.
Okay. So for obviously we've talked about a lot. There's one thing that you'd leave everyone with, or one thing that you feel like you figured out in this life. Like, what would you share?
I just hope that my art, my music, my poetry, and I don't know, all the art that I've participated in. I don't know, maybe at some point there's cumulatively like all of the material expresses who I was. It's more of like that'll be my tombstone.
Yeah.
It's like everything that is me, I want all my art to be that.
Well,
so I hope whatever that is means something to other people eventually. I think, I hope, I want to believe that I see the world in a unique way, which everybody does, but I have a unique opportunity to communicate it differently.
Yeah.
In my own way, where a lot of people, in whatever way they lead their life, don't have the opportunity to communicate their perspective on the world.
Yeah.
But I do. I think I have a lot to share. I hope people will check it out. Maybe learn from it. So I wrote you that song, It's like that lifelong endeavor that every part of me will eventually be in art, in all the art that I make.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, like, you've already altered, I'm sure, hundreds, if not thousands, of people with your art.
That'd be cool.
I believe it. I know you changed mine, and I know that you changed Maria's, because we had a blast dancing to Jerusa Funk
That's it.
with the whole everyone else that was there. It's a magic moment, you know. And I hope to see you again play live, whether it's whatever band it is,
Yeah.
or Schmusic reunion. Who knows what the hell? But
I will absolutely fly to Sweden so we can make a Schmusic record.
we'll see what happens. But I just want you to know that, you know, I know it'd be cool, like even after you're dead, that's a thing. But I know that's already changing things right now.
That's nice. I mean, like, I want to believe that, but it's not the most important. You know, it's like,
No,
that
I left that to you. I'm just letting you know
Yeah.
my experience.
well, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I just don't want it to stop.
No, and I
COVID-
think that you are expressing all these things on here, and you have a unique point of view, and I love fucking talking to you, dude.
I love talking to you, man. It's been, like, remarkable. It's been, like, one of the most incredible friendship rebuilds
Yeah.
I've ever had.
The COVID blessing strikes again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, like a lot of my friends who I've fell out of touch with, I mean, we're still good friends, but, you know, you're my oldest friend. You're older. I've known you longer than my brother. You are like,
Yeah,
My
I've known
old-
you the longest too, dude. Like,
yeah,
it's
it's
that's
crazy.
that's something people that they can't be replaced, right?
Yeah,
Um,
makes a lot of sense.
unless one of us dies, and then down the line, someone else can be an older friend.
Nah, fuck no. You kidding?
Who knows? But I am gonna. I think this is a good place to call it, dude.
Cool.
You good?
Yeah, man. Well, thank you for sitting down with me and talking with me. It's been like, I mean, we can have this forever. That's pretty sick.
Dude, yeah, and we'll have it again. We can do it online or whatever, but I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Thank you, everybody, and I love you, dude. I will
Love you too, Etsy.
talk to you later.